Yes, so free convection or natural convection. So free convection opposite of forced convection. In case of forced convection, you always have some external device which is driving the fluid. It can be a fan, it can be a pump, or even in case of wind, you consider it to be forced convection. Okay, because like the motion of the fluid is because of some other external force. It is not due to the internal forces generated because of the temperature difference inside the system. In case of free convection, now mind well, this is again convection. In spite of the movement, bulk movement, whenever there is a bulk movement of the fluid, only then you call the phenomena to be convection. Otherwise, it will be diffusion or conduction. Right. So there is bulk movement of the fluid, but the bulk movement of the fluid is not due to any external force. It is due to the internal forces generated. Mainly the buoyancy force is playing the most important role. So when there is no external force for which makes the fluid to have bulk movement, but it is generated internally in the system because of the temperature differences, you call it free convection. Though we give more importance most of the times to forced convection, and you may have many more examples for forced convection as compared to free convection, but still there are several systems in which free convection also plays an important role, particularly when the temperature difference between the fluid and the solid surface is high. The natural convection or free convection starts playing more and more important role. Some common examples found is are shown in the figure here. So one is this buoyancy driven free boundary layer flows in an extensive quiescent medium. So if you have a heated wire in stagnant air, then there is generation of plume as it is shown here. Right, so this is basically the region where you will find temperature to be higher than the and velocities. Means there is some velocity gradient. Otherwise, outside it is zero. So there is some velocity gradient, and temperatures would be higher than the surrounding temperatures because of this heated wire. And another is buoyant jet associated with a heated discharge. So there is a pipe through which hot fluid is injected into some big pool of liquid, and this is also say same hot liquid. Then there is a buoyant jet which is created, right, and which is mainly distinguished because of the velocity not being equal to zero, which is equal to zero outside, and uh, the velocity and the temperature being different, right? Okay. Again, the analysis or discussion on natural convection or free convection start with the flow or natural convection phenomena occurring on a vertical flat plate. So let's again take that case. So here, because the movement, if you are talking about a heated plate, right? So in condensation, the plate temperature was lower than the bulk fluid temperature. But here we are talking about a heated plate. Of course, you can have a colder plate also, and the natural convection will occur in that case also. But we are starting our discussion with a case where the plate temperature is higher than the bulk fluid temperature. So this hot plate or heated plate is put in a quiescent fluid. What do you mean by quiescent fluid? What you mean is that there is no bulk velocity away from the plate. It's there. There is some bulk movement of the fluid, but that's close to the plate inside the boundary layer. But away from that, there is no bulk fluid movement. this is something dissimilar with the external flow, right? In case of external flow, even away from the plate, you had some free stream velocity. Okay, so it's put in a quiescent or stagnant fluid, and the plate is hot. So what is going to happen is the gas or air, or it can even be liquid, it comes in contact with this hot plate, and because of temperature rise, because of the heat gain, it starts moving upward, and there is further and further heat provided by this plate, and there is entrainment of fresh or induction of the fresh air or gas also into this boundary layer, and because of that there is a growth of the boundary layer. And you can see like this surface temperature is higher than the T infinity. T infinity is the temperature outside the boundary layer, that of the like much away from the plate, the temperature. And how the velocity varies is shown. So near the plate it has to be equal to 0, right? Near the plate it has to be equal to 0, or at the surface of the plate it has to be equal to 0. Then it goes on increasing, but again here the fluid is quiescent, having 0 velocity, so it has to decrease again continuously and become 0. And what about the temperature gradient? The temperature gradient, the surface temperature is higher, and in the boundary layer it continuously goes on decreasing, and at some distance from the plate there is hardly any temperature change occurring, so the gradient becomes almost 0. So at that point you are outside the boundary layer. So this is the velocity boundary layer, and this is the thermal boundary layer. And actually they are like one is the existence of one is because of the other, right? Because of the temperature difference there is a movement. Okay. The governing equations for the laminar boundary layers in case of free convection. So you can please recall the governing equation for the external flow over a flat plate. We are not talking like the continuity equation would be same as that of the external flow, that is du by dx plus dv by dy is equal to 0. But the x momentum equation, now here the x is vertical direction, x momentum equation, you can compare the one for the external flow with this one. All terms are almost same except this minus g. So there our assumption in case of external flow was that the body forces are negligible. But here you have to consider the body force per unit volume, x equal to minus rho g. Okay. Now because all the terms have been divided with rho, here you see just minus g. Okay. So that's the difference between the governing equation. So here the inertia forces are important, the left hand side, then the pressure force is there. Now mind well, this is P infinity, that is the pressure outside the boundary layer. This is the pressure outside the boundary layer. That is because of the column of the fluid. So if you move up, the pressure is going to decrease. And this is the because of the viscosity. So all forces are there, and there is an additional force because of the body force, gravity, and that is what is buoyancy effect, right? So this dp infinity by dx, as I told, is the free stream pressure gradient in the quiescent region outside the boundary layer. In this region, u is equal to 0. Okay. So how much is this dp infinity by dx, that is outside the boundary layer? How pressure will change with the height? It is nothing but rho g, right? And this rho is the density of the fluid outside the boundary layer, right? Which is a like you can, yeah, So that may remain nearly constant, the density of the fluid, because this is function of temperature, which is not changing much outside the boundary layer. So dp by dx is minus rho infinity into g. So you can put that value. So now there is little manipulation of that equation, and so that value is put in the governing equation. So what you get, like you are combining these two terms in 9.1, and you get g into delta rho upon rho, right? So you can do this exercise again, and delta p is nothing but this rho infinity minus rho. Now what is this rho and what is rho infinity? Rho infinity is something outside the boundary layer and rho is something inside the boundary layer. So if you're talking about a particular section here, then rho infinity is outside the boundary layer, but rho here would be lower because of the heating of the fluid as it comes in contact with the plate, right? And that value will be different at different cross sections. Now there is a property of the fluid which is called volumetric thermal expansion coefficient, and it is defined as beta is equal to minus 1 upon rho into d rho by dt for constant pressure. That is the change of density with temperature, right? And you are not changing pressure, and then again divided by the density. So the unit is 1 upon Kelvin, this volumetric thermal expansion coefficient, which is a property of the fluid. This thermodynamic property of the fluid provides a measure of the amount by which the density changes in response to change in temperature at constant pressure. If it is expressed in the following approximate form, so if that dp by dt is linear in a small range of temperature, then you may write delta p upon delta t, and that would make it minus 1 upon delta rho infinity minus rho and t infinity minus t, right? So now you can express it like this, because you want to finally write this part in the equation where you had this rho infinity minus rho, so you replaced it with this. So a bit different form of the x momentum equation. Now the continuity equation, as I told, remains the same, and the x momentum equation is this. Y momentum equation again is not important as in case of external flow, and this is the energy equation, right? Same form as that of the external flow. Now what would be the value of beta? You for different fluids it will be different, but if you're talking about ideal gas, you would be able to show that this beta is equal to nothing but 1 upon T, right? T is this absolute temperature. So don't make a mistake and put this T in degrees Celsius when you have to find beta for an ideal gas. And most of the times the air, unless the pressures are very high, you can take it to be 1 upon ideal. You can consider it to be ideal gas, and you can take it 1 upon T. Okay. So you can very easily derive that. It's shown in single step here. You can add 1 or 2 steps, and basically PV is equal to RT is to be put in like in place of delta. Delta is to be replaced. Okay, so it will be 1 upon T. So if you have the temperature of the gas available, you can get beta by just finding the inverse of the absolute temperature. Now this the equation, particularly the x momentum equation, you want to non-dimensionalize that equation. So similar to the non-dimensionalization which was done for external flow, the similar treatment may be done here. So you take length L as the reference length, and your x star non-dimensional x would be x upon L, non-dimensional y will be y upon L, then u star is u upon u O or U0. Now this U0 is like some reference velocity. Right now you're not talking about what exactly it is, right? Similarly, V star, and then this non-dimensional temperature difference T star is defined as T minus T infinity upon Ts minus T infinity, right? So this is the maximum temperature difference, and this is the like whatever is the local temperature at a given height minus T infinity. That is what is T star. Now you are writing the x momentum equation in non-dimensional form. So what you do is divide all the equation with uo square, right? Divide all the equations with uo square. So this u which was there becomes u star. Here also there is u which also becomes u star, and you are also multiplying all the terms with L. So because of that L, this x becomes x star. Again here v becomes v star, and this u becomes u star, y becomes y star because of multiplication of L, right? This is in the denominator, and here you are also modifying this part and writing this T minus T infinity as T star into Ts minus T infinity, right? So that's what is done. So that is like it gets a bit modified here, and this uo square also appears here because you divided all the terms here with uo square, and the last term is uo star. One of the uo is used here to get u star, and L, there was one L which can make one y star, but you have to have one additional L, right? And because you have to create this y star square, so those extra terms would go into along with new will go into this Reynolds number. So this is 1 upon the Reynolds number which is going to appear in the last term. Okay, and the energy equation becomes the way it is shown here, and you have 1 upon the Reynolds number into Prandtl number in the multiplication inverse of that in the term on the right hand side in place of alpha only. So the dimensionless parameter in the first term on the right hand side of the equation 9.10 is a direct consequence of the buoyancy force, right? So this part is the direct consequence of the buoyancy force. The reference velocity, now reference velocity is uo is used. Now you have a freedom to define the reference velocity, and you are defining it as g beta Ts minus T infinity into L. Okay. If you do that, then that would make multiplication of T star equal to 1. Okay. So that the term multiplying T star becomes unity. Then Reynolds number would become because this uo goes into Reynolds number, right? Rho u into d, right? Or L, the characteristic length upon mu. So with this value of uo, right? So uo will be one this term raised to 1/2. Okay, so that may be used in the term for Reynolds number. So Reynolds number would finally become g beta Ts minus T infinity L cube upon nu square raised to 1/2. And it is customary to define the Grashof number as the square of this Reynolds number. Okay, so the Grashof number, now it's a new number which is defined here, and which is defined as g beta Ts minus T infinity L cube upon nu square. Okay, which is related with the Reynolds number defined in case of natural convection, right? And it's basically the square of Reynolds number. So we generally don't talk about the Reynolds number in case of natural convection, but of course there is some movement of the fluid moving vertically upward in the inside the boundary layer in case of the heated plate, and so there is existence of Reynolds number, but that is because of the temperature difference between the solid surface and the fluid. Okay. And we normally use the Grashof number for like even providing the solution or providing the correlations for the natural convective heat transfer coefficient. Right? We'll continue our discussion on this in the coming lecture.